Bridge over troubled water.
Alright, welcome back. This is a recent trip up to Sydney I've just done. I took along the Leica Q3, my Contax G2, also known as my Canon 7S, and the new Pentax 1.7 half frame as well. And I'll talk a bit about what I've done with my photography in the past and what I plan to do with the channel in the future. I am in Sydney. There's the Harbour Bridge and there's the Opera House, and this behind me is the MCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art. And I'm here because my mum sent me a ABC segment about the Sugimoto exhibition that's on here. In doing a bit of research about him, it looks like we actually have a few overlapping interests. So I'll pass over to Home Loose to explain what all of those are, and I'll be back to take you through what I want to do here at the exhibition. Alright, so point one, he has a whole series on reflections, and I have a whole series on reflections. I was looking back through my work and I've been shooting reflections in one form or another for over a decade now, and I've sort of honed in on it to these reflections along the Yarra recently, which come out sort of like these abstract paintings, which I'm really into. And I'm going to get a medium format camera to pursue those a bit more seriously and just see what I can pull out of the drink, basically. But that's point one. So reflections, that's a little bit of a overlap right there. Point two, another thing that he likes to play with is blurring the line between what's real and what's fake. So back in 2014, I won the Independent Photography Festival with a photo. It was shot on the street, shot on film, but then subtly digitally manipulated and printed it just a bit bigger than like a regular print. So it looked a lot like a snapshot. It had that sort of snapshot vibe, but it sort of made you do a double take because, yeah, there were extra limbs in this photo. And yeah, I really liked making these edits, and then some people thought it was completely unedited, other people knew it was edited, and I guess some people didn't care, but the judges knew, and yeah, I won, which was crazy, but it's still to this day one of the crowning achievements of my creative life, and something I'm really proud of. For the exhibition itself, so I won the IPF in 2014. A year later I had my own solo exhibition, which is the prize for winning, and I called the exhibition Gonzo. It's a journalism term which was made famous by Hunter S. Thompson, and basically it just means you're not being objective with the work, so you're putting a piece of yourself into the story. And so I thought that was quite fitting for the images that I was creating, where it was street, it was real, but then I've added an extra element on top of it to make it a bit bizarre and a bit sort of my own. I do have a preference for this sort of surrealist work and the sort of weird images that people create. So my main influences at the time were Daniel Arnold. So I knew about Daniel Arnold from Instagram. I'd been following him for a while. And then Asger Carlson, who I'd found in a Vice magazine article way back in the day as well. And so Daniel Arnold, you know, street, and then Asger Carlson, crazy, weird, manipulated images. And so yeah, I combined both of them to create my own work. And the show itself, it consisted of some subtly edited images, some highly edited images, these mirror images I was doing as a sort of concept of, you know, when you do put on a show, everything is a reflection of you and your creative mind. And then I also had some completely unedited images in there just to sort of throw people off. A really nice part about it all is that the gallery owner ended up buying the one of one framed and finished picture, that winning image, and kept it for her personal collection. So that was really nice. And finally, point 3. So he takes photos of other people's work to create his own work, most famously the New York Natural History Museum pieces, and then also his Madame Tussauds portraits, and how that relates to me. Back in 2015, I went to the Venice Biennale and I took a photo of a Gursky piece. Now, Andras Gursky, he held the title that year for the most expensive photo ever sold at 4.3 mil. And I took a photo of one of his photos and I made one of my mirror edits. So when I got back, I got a bunch of the photos that I wanted to do in the show drum scanned here in Melbourne. So I've got these like 300 megabyte files of these 35mm frames, and I was going to put it in the show with a price tag of $1 more than he sold the most expensive photo in the world for. But all of the shots in the show were street. It would have just been this one random gallery shot piece, which I thought didn't fit, so I didn't do it. But I do have those scans, and I'll put up, that they were created in 2015. The whole show actually sold out, which is crazy, and the gallery owner gave me a really good bit of advice, and it was keep the momentum going. And so I ended up taking about a decade hiatus where I sorted out other aspects of my life, but I'm very keen to get back into the reflection stuff. I'm just keen to see where it all goes as opposed to just shooting street. We'll see where that leads, but in the meantime, let's get off to Sydney and see what I can create at the Sugimoto exhibition. Peace. Wow, thanks for all that, Home Loose. How humble of you to compare yourself against so many internationally acclaimed artists. So with all that in mind, what better time and place to go and steal some ideas and use other people's work in my own work than at a Sugimoto exhibition. That Isaac Newton book, it's all about light, reflections, color, so I'm gonna try and incorporate something to do with those things into what I create in there. Hopefully the Sugimoto gods are shining on me and we actually create something that doesn't completely suck balls, and then maybe I'll get my own exhibition at the MCA. So starting off, the reflections off the images caught my eye. The shadows that were cast from the lights in the gallery. Because the frames were quite big, the images were set away from the backboard. And so you'd get these shadows off the tops of the frames, the sides of the frames, the sides of the work itself, the images. I started off trying to take a few pictures without the reflections in them. The light in the gallery is really warm, so this is sort of what it looks like, and the iPhone tries to make it look as good as it can, but it's also really quite dark, especially in these first rooms that you're in. But yeah, started off by taking a couple of photos with no reflections as well as I could. That's a shot off the P17 that gives you an idea of how warm the lights are in there. So once I was in this bright room, I was looking at the reflections on the floor. These are all of his works that are just reflections of light that he's taken a photo of. So then I was looking at the lights on the roof, where they were placed, how were they lighting the space, where were the shadows being cast. And these were shot with my macro lens on the Canon 7S. So the point of that corner is perfectly in focus. And then I like the way the rest sort of falls away in the bokeh, out of focus. Here's a well-lit example. So this is what I call my chewing gum Mount Fuji. It's just a piece of gum on a ledge, but you can see the fall off. So all of that bokeh just falls away into blur. So looking at that top left light, I thought, what if I shoot directly into that reflection? So I got all the texture off the image, and I really like that sort of idea, making new work out of his work that looks completely different to the work itself. I really like this second one, so it's the more well-balanced one, and I've got the edge of his piece and the edge of the light reflecting in it, and then everything else just falls away out of focus. So I really like that. So even though this photo was taken of one of his trigonometric sculpture photos, it also sort of looks like his photos of the ocean that he took. And again, just working within the limitations I had, so the lack of light, I went to this brighter image, and that little strip of shadow on the right there, I made this picture and flipped it portrait because I think it just sort of works a bit better that way. So this one, an actual reflection, so off the mirrored finish of one of his sculptures. But Again, the colours just didn't work. There's not enough light. It was a bit too far away. Weren't my favourites. These pieces were my favourite. They're just simple and bright. I like colour and I like bright colours, so I'm a pretty simple guy. Again, just the shadow off the corner of this frame here. I wanted to put a bit of that. And again, just that point being in focus. Just some geometric lines. Seeing where it went, what else I could do. But it got me thinking as well to make it my own. So these colours he's taken photos of, they're just shafts of light. And he's taken just the colour of this light, but using the really yellow, warm light of the gallery to try and capture these colours accurately was basically impossible. So for this last one, again, shooting directly into the light that was shining onto the piece to get the texture of the work, but making it monochromatic. I really like this one. So these are probably my favorite too. That first one from the sculpture photo, and then turning one of his color photos into black and white. But now off to shoot some street. So those of you familiar with the channel will know that the little temperature gauge down on the bottom left there is going to indicate when we hit warm. It'll be the first photo of the day that I actually sort of like. Not to say that I didn't like that first photo. This motorbike guy, I like the way he's sort of holding his hand there. And here's a few that I wasn't filming when I took them, but might as well chuck them in. In construction, I just like, I think maybe in 100 years that might be interesting. But it's good light, and this little jetty here was really cool, just sort of bobs up and down. And again, the reflections in the water, the little silhouettes of the people, and then the sun just blasting. I love that. With obviously the opera house in the background. I was hoping this guy with the dual cellos would walk towards me, but unfortunately not. You see a few people popping their arms through these fences to take photos. It's a pretty good vantage point up there of the opera house. Nice little spot for a business meeting in the gardens there as well. And then I chucked on the long lens because you can do these tours where you walk across the harbour bridge itself. And so yeah, I saw the little ants scurrying across it, and I had the gear there to take the photos, so gives you a good idea of the scale of the thing. It's pretty big. And then these two little stragglers down the bottom there. Now when I first was checking out this spot before the people came, I had one, like an AFP security guy, come up just to see what the hell I was doing. Don't think he was too keen on me taking photos of the secret opera house entrance. Must be where they keep the Phantom of the Opera down there somewhere. Q3, pretty boring, but nice light. And then these reflections, if I lived in Sydney, I think I'd be down there a bit trying to get, like if you got lucky, you could get some really cool sparkles around people and around things. If the planets aligned one day, you could get something really cool. I did get one that I really like, coming up a bit later. These guys were just making out like non-stop. Pretty full-on session, which is sweet. Now this is what I mean, so the shine sort of wrapping around this girl's head, that's sort of what I was aiming for. So finally got one. This one completely didn't get any, because yeah, the water moves. There's so many ferries that go in and out of there that it's hard to know exactly where the water's going to be, where the shines are going to be. Little chemtrail in the beautiful Botanic Gardens. I thought that was pretty nice. Nice little couple photo again. Cool little glistening shines. But yeah, hot tip, do not carry two cameras, especially one with a long lens, around the harbour bridge, because everyone will think that you know how to take photos, which is, yeah, unfortunately not the case for all of those people I took photos for. Now this is probably my favourite street photo of the lot. This is on the Q3. We've got the little Harbour Bridge jacket. The corn thins in her hand sort of ruin it a bit for me, but I like the lady in the background sort of looking right at her as well. Sort of balances it out well. And then I spotted these monks heading up the stairs, so waited till they got to the top of the stairs, and this guy in the cool jacket down the bottom in the foreground. There's a plane going around in the background, that would have been sick. And then rushed up with my Q3 just as they walked off into the shadows. But yeah, I like that photo too. Now this guy's sort of talking animatedly with his arms right in the glistening sun there. And then the boat in the background, the little silhouette of the man on it. Bridge, like people in the foreground having a drink. Like you could get something really cool if you stuck at it, went down there enough and got lucky, because there's a lot of traffic through the water there behind them, so you could get something really cool one day. But yeah, another hot tip, I guess it's been really windy in Melbourne, and it was really windy up in Sydney as well. And another hot tip is get some chapstick, because my lips were cooked. Now this guy, I thought he was pretty much dead, but I did some Googling. It turns out they shut down half of their brain and they just sleep and flop around with one fin up and have a little breathe. And here's some photos from the garden that I thought I was filming for, but I wasn't. So that's unfortunate. But a lot of these are the P17, amazing little camera. But yeah, if you liked any of those photos, even a little bit, please like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.